coming at you from the Beaver County Auto Studios up above Market Square here in downtown Pittsburgh. This is a Steelers short version of Mic Drop on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I am your host, Mike Asti, and the Steelers, they're not going to let the bye week stop them from making headlines as Big Ben managed to hit the headlines during his weekly radio spot with 93.7 The Fan. Ben making his feelings pretty felt and pretty clear on Vontez Burfict's recent actions in that game against Cincinnati this past week. You can see it here. Ben Roethlisberger says, "We saw typical antics from Vontez Burfict." So Big Ben making the statement, Big Ben letting his feelings known, typical antics from Vontez Burfict. Can even check out here what Ben is kind of talking about. And Ben brought up a hit on him. Ben brought up how he missed maybe getting seriously injured. Ben brought up how he felt Vontez Burfict was headhunting. And Ben brought up how his wife told him that he got lucky. And it could have been very severe in terms of where Vontez Burfict was gunning for him on a particular play that almost took Ben out. But when you go to a couple other plays here, which is more what the national media is focusing on, you get one here. Vontez Burfict, Antonio Brown already going down, and you see Vontez Burfict making sure he can lay the helmet in there. Kind of unnecessary. Antonio Brown already going down. And Vontez Burfict doesn't care. Vontez Burfict throughout the game, according to Ben Roethlisberger again, saying that Vontez Burfict pointed at Juju and said, "You're next," to Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe getting revenge off of the smackdown, the Juju off the block from last year and then leering over him. Vontez Burfict also claiming Juju spit on him, what Juju denies. But Vontez Burfict, according to Ben Roethlisberger, making it evident that he was gunning for certain players, was trying to injure them, was laying helmet to helmet, was doing it after the play, and was doing it when unnecessary. Here's another one. Vontez Burfict, you see right there, that is another one with Antonio Brown. Helmet to helmet, that's Vontez right to the helmet, right to the temple. Already two defenders taking AB down. Vontez Burfict didn't care, laying the helmet to helmet in and trying to add maybe insult to injury there with the key on injury. And Ben bringing up the threat to Juju. Ben bringing up the helmet-to-helmet hits. Ben bringing up Vontez Burfict history in this rivalry and the fact that Vontez Burfict has been suspended for these type of antics, has been trying to headhunt players in the past. The Steelers felt like he intentionally gave Antonio Brown a concussion in the playoffs a few years ago. The Steelers felt like maybe he even deserved what happened to him and got him concussed on the block and the leering over and taunting from Juju. And we're here now still, and several years later, into Vontez Burfict versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as Ben said, he even wished Vontez Burfict well and said, "I'm happy to have you back here on the field, and I want to play against the best." Vontez Burfict is a great player. He is somebody that is not to be just thrown away and disregarded in terms of what his impact can be on the field. But his impact, unfortunately, is potentially injuring players, potentially ending guys' career. And it's clear from what Ben said on his radio spot, from what many other Steelers have said, and even other players around the NFL and former players. Joe Thomas, former All-Pro, probably future Hall of Famer from the Cleveland Browns, now just around there in media in retirement, made it very clear he feels Vontez Burfict should be suspended the rest of the year. That Vontez Burfict actions are unacceptable and they are bad for the league and they teach a bad lesson to players out there and to young kids, and they're just a black eye overall, especially when you have a team that he just played in saying that they felt he was intentionally trying to injure several of their players. He was pointing at one, saying, "You're next," trying to lay the helmet to helmet when a guy was already going down, targeting Ben's head again when he was already going down and it wasn't unnecessary. And you're going to have rough hits, and sometimes defenders can't stop themselves. But again, when there's so much intent, there's so much of a history, and you have a future Hall of Fame quarterback going on his radio show and feeling very comfortable in saying typical antics from Vontez Burfict, calling them typical antics. Perfect sentiment there. You see it again there. Ben Roethlisberger says we saw typical antics from Vontez Burfict. So Big Ben not shying away, typical antics from Vontez Burfict, claiming intent, claiming that he thought Juju was being targeted, that AB was being targeted. And yes, the Steelers win, and AB maybe gets retribution with the game-winning touchdown in a game that maybe you could say the Cincinnati Bengals bungled up yet again as they scored late, took a lead, but then there was time left and ended up losing 7th straight, I believe, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they keep saying they're the better team, but the results aren't there. But separate from the game itself, the conversation after the game, the conversation still now and during the Steelers bye week, is getting attention for the Steelers when they're supposed to be off because of Vontez Burfict. And because, as Ben said, the typical antics from Vontez Burfict. And good for Ben. Good for Ben Roethlisberger. Ben is a future Hall of Fame quarterback, and no, he's not the greatest quarterback in the world ever. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Peyton Manning. But he's been an elite quarterback most of his career. He's won 2 championships. He's thrown a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns through his career, all the records in terms of Steelers history. He's a veteran now. He's been that for years. He feels comfortable calling his own plays. He feels comfortable arguing with offensive coordinators and making his subtle comments to the media. So I'm sure now he feels comfortable saying, hey, typical antics and a guy going too far. The NFL needs to do something about this, Ben reiterated. Will they? Seems not. No suspension on Vontez Burfict. Maybe a fine from what I'm hearing. But typical antics from Vontez Burfict with a history of these antics. So a past precedent for this, and still nothing from the NFL, who, by the way, claims they're all about safety. They're all about their image, and they're all about cleaning up the game from these type of hits. The guy they need to clean up more than anybody is the typical antics from Vontez Burfict. From Vontez Burfict and his typical antics. And you heard it right there from Ben Roethlisberger. Vontez Burfict at it again, and there's seemingly nothing to tell anybody he will ever change. The Steelers know it. All opponents know it. You got to get ready when you play the Bengals and Vontez Burfict, and you go there to Cincinnati, especially on the road. It's typical antics. And Pac-Man might not be there, but Vontez Burfict still is, and Vontez Burfict is going to seriously injure somebody. And I said this and got some flack for it. I would never wish injury on anybody. Don't care. I would never hope for anybody to be injured. But Vontez Burfict might be that one guy that finally maybe deserves it. He maybe is the guy that deserves it and needs to suffer a serious injury, needs to have a career-ending injury to realize the error of his ways and realize his antics no longer have a place in the National Football League. But Ben Roethlisberger, typical antics from Vontez Burfict. Make sure to subscribe to us there, Pittsburgh Sports Live on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube to make it easier for us to give you these type of hits, our content on the Pittsburgh Sports Live YouTube page, whether it be the shows, whether it be the post-game coverage, whether it be the press conferences, whether it be quick hits like this or anything we're doing, all our content there on Pittsburgh Sports Live. It's easier for us to provide that to you when you subscribe. You get notifications. We won't have to be bothering you so much with the promotion by just subscribing there on the YouTube. Also easy for you and easy for us to get the content to you. Follow us on Twitter at PGH Sports Live on Twitter. The typical antics won't stop, and neither will we, and neither will I, delivering you the Radio Gold. So this has been another Radio Gold edition of Mic Drop. This a Steelers short version of Mic Drop right here on Pittsburgh Sports Live.